Ladies and gentlemen, we meet to discuss a significant moment in time, a total solar eclipse taking place on October 14th, 2023. It's so good to see you all. What's that signpost up ahead? It's the evolutionary themes for the 6 months to come. Yes, this solar eclipse sets the tone, the themes, and the directions through April 2024. Now, the entire formula and breakdown of this specific moment in time, you can get the total technique. You could interpret this eclipse by yourself by joining my Astro school at RasalilaCommunity.com. That monthly subscription includes a Q&A circle. Our next Q&A will meet on the 22nd, so we can take a look at these eclipses as they play out in your own life and birth chart. And I'm so excited to announce I will be doing a mini in-person workshop. It will also be aired live online. So we're going to go even more in depth into these eclipses in a forthcoming workshop. You can meet me in person if you're in the Asheville area. Otherwise, check out the video description below so you can sign up, get even more in-depth info about these eclipses, as well as taking a look at your personal birth chart to see how these themes are playing out in your life experience as well. Okay, so first and foremost, with Pluto squaring the moon's nodes in the Libra Aries polarity, there is this overall reverberation between Libra and Aries themes. And we're going to use this reverberation as an evolutionary fulcrum in order to change, grow, heal, and take significant strides forward through the months to come. As we discuss some of the themes in this video is going to be igniting the revolutionary trailblazing period to come going into 2024, which is also going to call a significant number of healers and leaders to the forefront. This is why I'm titling my mini workshop that's taking place here in Asheville the weekend of the 20th, Rise of the New Peaceful Warrior. This eclipse on the moon's south node in Libra is calling us back into a reflection and a remembering, which can largely be taking place through relationships. At the same time, we're being called to step up and initiate new ways of relating, being involved in our world, in our society, showing up in intimate relationships. What and how do we do love? How do we do equal exchange? So we have each other's backs, so we have real support. What is that moral code? How can we stand up for justice and equality? That's going to be some of the major underlying theme continued through the end of 2023 into 2024. How can we increase a natural sense of harmony and support in all of our relating? This again is going to bring up a reverberation and a paradox between the themes of the moon's north node, which is now forming a conjunction with the centaur planet Chiron, the wounded healer, now through February of 2024. That's going to call us to take a stand. We have to protect our individuality, our uniqueness, our desire, our own energy system, our own body and health in order to maintain autonomy. So we're looking at this dynamic between how we're coming together, how we're defending and protecting our autonomy, this need to explore, to be on an adventure that is motivated, that's exciting, and allowing for a necessary freedom, so to explore and discover our own unique desires. That's Aries. There must be enough open road to maintain our autonomy while At the same exact time, Pluto square the nodes, being resolved through the South Node in Libra, is calling us back into reconnection. It's making us look at how we're showing up and sharing in relationships. And this South Node of the Moon is the actual resolution of this Pluto square. Whenever planets square the Moon's nodes, this is really important stuff. If you have any planets square the nodes in your birth chart, I highly recommend you join my astrology school and check out those lessons on whatever planet you have square the Moon's nodes. It's going to have overall lifelong themes that are very important to you and your healing life journey and unfolding. When the South Node of the Moon is the resolution node, that simply means that South Node was the last node to conjoin Pluto. That Pluto is being integrated through the South Node. And for those who are aware of astrology, eclipses bring up these evolutionary themes. We remember the past. We get glimpses of the future because that is the actual fulcrum of the Moon's nodes, as we're evolving through this exploration and reverberation between the past and the future. The Moon's South Node, being the resolution, says something about a need to go back in order to go forward. Libra being the sign of relationship, the other, collaboration, connection. There may need to be a returning to a particular person, a particular dynamic, relationships, looking at our childhood, looking at our parents' relationships, how our parents' relationship may have conditioned original expectations and obligations that gets assigned to our gender, that gets assigned to our role, how we're showing up in the world, how we're taking care of others, how we're taking care of ourselves, etc. So there's this necessary reviewing, rewinding, remembering, and going back. And yet at the same time, we're not actually moving backwards. Oftentimes, I find South Nodal eclipse can have this regressive feel, like we're getting punished, or we're moving backwards, or we're in samsara and we're stuck in this wheel of rebirth and we can't get off the merry-go-round. Let's bear in mind that we're evolving by going backwards right now. So there's a necessary reviewing, a necessary remembering, but this is actually to take a step forward simultaneously. The South Nodal resolution says something about embodiment through this necessary reflection, remembering, and integration of who we are together, Libra. Integration of how we can support each other, how we have each other's backs. What is that moral code? How are we supporting each other mutually, equally? Give and take, harmonious flow. That's where there's a necessary integration. Power through being together. Yet Pluto stationing in Capricorn is calling us to also initiate change. There is a power in changing how we're coming together. There is an opportunity for increased flow, balance, and harmony by creating this moral code, by forming this agreement. And this can involve lots of working out the kinks of the past, remembering what was not fair, what was not equal, remembering projection, where we may have projected the wounds or the stories of the past with another person on the person in the present who simply has a similarity, etc. This type of healing through reflection is absolutely highlighted with this eclipse being opposite the Centaur planet Chiron. If there is ever a time for therapy, it is highlighted right now. There is an opportunity for us to learn through this coming together in a supportive way. Now, when we talk about Venus and Virgo, this can also bring up the theme of finding our necessary role with others. Venus just moved into Virgo yesterday, where she'll remain through November 8th and is now opposite to Saturn. And this really brings up this overall theme that's kind of serious. It's like, okay, let's form these contracts. And what is our role? Venus and Virgo, back to the collective, Saturn and Pisces. And what is the world and the collective need, Saturn and Pisces? Where are people struggling? Where do people lack health? Where do people lack support? What are the pathologies of the world? What were the pathologies that we were born into? We're looking at this collective theme. What has oppressed humanity for centuries? What have we missed? What do we need? So we're seeing this relationship between our service, Venus and Virgo, how we can help, how we can support, how we can help clean out their house and get them on the right diet, schedule, and routine. We can really feel driven to form these codes, to form these contracts and agreements of how we're showing up and supporting one another right now. Now, if there were any danger or any shadow to this eclipse, which any moment in time we see these polarities, these dynamics, it would be the danger of falling into codependency. And as I'm mentioning, there's so much of a need to review and go back. At the same time, we can all anticipate experiencing at least a reviewing or a remembering of codependency, or where we've all had a hard time not falling into codependency. So first of all, let's define what codependency means. That would be a losing of our identity, a losing of our direction, or a losing of our autonomy. Don't do it. With the North Node in Aries through this next year, the evolutionary journey is how do we maintain individuality? How do we maintain autonomy, maintain motivation to initiate our own path, being confident that this is who we are, this is what we want to do, and everybody has differences. Everybody has their own desire system. So in many ways, we each do have to go our own way. So if you're struggling with codependency or you're looking at codependency, good. What that means is you're aware of that dynamic where you can potentially run into loss of identity, direction, or motivation. Now is the opportunity to change these dynamics. Pluto stationing in Capricorn, this is about to clear out his 2-decade transit of Capricorn. This is a very, very big deal, the astrology taking place now through 2024. What we're talking about is changing our fundamental societal orientation. What were those traditional roles? Where, for example, perhaps did we fall into codependency, and how can we change that dynamic? We're changing gender dynamics. We're changing sexual dynamics. We're changing projection and stigma and assumption to get to equal level land. Okay, so there's a need to transform our culture and society. Pluto stationing direct in Capricorn, being resolved through the South Node in Libra, through how we're relating, through how we're standing up for justice, equality, standing up for gender, how we're fighting for the freedom of our fellow man, woman, children. Libra is about standing up and fighting for the outspoken and the downtrodden. We have this beautiful symbol in the Aries-Libra polarity of the warrior goddess Pallas Athena. She's the perfect symbol of the balance between Aries and Libra because she's got her helmet, her spear, her shield. Nobody messes with Pallas Athena. She's one of the few goddesses to survive the patriarchy without being thrown under or scathed. So she's protected. She's a warrior goddess. And at the same time, she's empathic. She's sensitive. She has the maternal sensitivity that is fighting for the outspoken, the downtrodden, the women and the children. So that's this moral code of chivalry. As we discussed in the last video, the knight follows a code of conduct called chivalry, where they are there to defend those who aren't able to defend themselves. So that's where there's this tremendous review. And how can we step out of codependency? How can we step out of outdated traditional roles? That's what Venus is looking at, opposite to Saturn on the 10th. And then asteroid Juno goes into Virgo, following Venus on the 17th, goes opposite to Saturn on the 19th. So again, we're looking at this, what could be traditional, what could have been our parents' outdated way of relating. You know, man's the Marlboro Man narcissist, woman's the Betty Crocker stay-at-home kitchen silent codependent. Man leads, woman follows, etc. These are obviously archaic, medieval, super outdated roles. And yet, in many respects, we've all been affected by these things, and they're alive in us. We were born into these roles. We still have these automatic and instinctual assumptions. I'll raise my hand and say, as a man, it's easy to step into the savior complex. I played video games where you have to rescue the princess from every castle. That's like the premise of every single children's book that I read growing up, right? So these things go really deep and can go very, very radical, leading us into the deepest part of our soul, our past lifetimes, and our unconscious. All the above is Pluto's realm, as well as Pluto's zodiac sign of Scorpio. So what we see is the ruler of the moon's north node, Aries, is Mars, goes into Scorpio Thursday, October 12th through November 24th. So here we have the signature. Mars turns a corner, squares Pluto a couple days ago on October 8th, then goes into Scorpio on the 12th. So we've got this huge transformation where we're looking at desire, we're looking at passion, we're looking at motivation and sexuality and the unconscious. And there's a significant turning of fundamental direction and passion when Mars squares Pluto. It's like, what lights us up, what doesn't, what is working for us, what's getting in the way. And for those who may have a Mars square Pluto in your birth chart, you certainly are familiar with this experience of this boiling up and then releasing. It's like when you put the pedal to the metal on a car, but you're in neutral and you hear the engine rev up, but the car doesn't necessarily go anywhere. And then you shift into drive and the car takes off. That's the type of energy we're working with this Mars square Pluto. While Pluto's stationing direct, we're getting catalysts. We're getting punches in the gut that's taking us all the way to the past, all the way to childhood, and we're looking at the unconscious. We're looking at the soul's majority of the iceberg beneath the water. For those who are familiar with the underworld, this can be felt, perceived as hell. It's like all of these underground tunnels mapping out our deeper psychology. And that can be a little bit uncomfortable, but for those of you who are soul healers, shamans, witches, you're badasses and you're comfortable going into the underworld, this is how we're mapping out the majority of the iceberg beneath the water. So guess what, folks? That underworld journey exploration begins October 12th, 2 days post Pluto station, and continues through November 24th. So this is the opportunity to leave no stone unturned. This is about going into the shadow. It's about going into the discomfort in order to bring awareness there. What makes us tick? What makes us afraid? This would be an example, an exemplary exploration of, fears. Why am I so afraid of the dark? Why am I so afraid of things attacking me at the night? And now I'm dealing with sleeplessness, or I have this major fear of spiders, or this major fear of this object or this thing. Why? Scorpio is a symbol system. We don't have those fears for no reason at all. What we do is we follow that trail of breadcrumbs down through the underworld to the root cause. And in a Pluto-Scorpio way, that could take us all the way back into past lives. When I'm working with clients, we don't necessarily have to talk about past lives. We're talking about our childhood because that reflects our past lifetimes straight back to us in the current lifetime. So you can go into past lives. You can go back into childhood. Regardless, we're tuning into the same fundamental themes and the symbol system of what we're attracted by, what we're repulsed by. That's all information to learn and then use. That's fuel to the fire. When we're playing with these fundamental magnets, again, the evolutionary theme of the moon's north node in Aries is how do we maintain courage, confidence, and motivation to go in this particular direction? So we got to know what we desire and what is incredibly attractive to us. We can use that. Each of us has those desires in highly unique ways. We want to exchange those things with our partners, with our collaborative friends, supporters, so we can use those jet fuels just the same way as a repulsion or a magnet that's pushing us away. That's something that can be used and or harnessed. This again is the opportune time for going into therapy, doing your hypnosis, doing your EMDR and past life regression. It's like in hypnosis, we learn to use magic to change all of these things. If you've got something that's, for example, keeping you up at night, you're so afraid or you're so repulsed by that, we can use this symbol system and these magnets to make a little bit of revisions. And we can use that same repulsion and those same magnets to propel you into a deep and restorative sleep. That's the magic we're talking about that comes out of the necessary exploration of the underworld. When we're talking about sex fetish land, this is like a brand new chapter humanity's just stumbling upon. Why are so many people into, Mr. Grey and, BDSM and going back to torture chambers in this? Do you think it may have to do with the soul's desire to heal from prior traumas? And why do we have such an intense attraction to something that seems on the surface very painful or, unpleasant? Well, there is a healing of the soul that's taking place. Again, the soul is not necessarily consciously, but unconsciously attempting to work with these magnets to heal parts that were previously fragmented. This is about empowerment. This is about coming into fearlessness. So Pluto stationing direct square these moon's nodes and square these eclipses is no joke. We are absolutely being called to change. There's no way we could ever maintain the old role, the old momentum, the old pace, just the same as here in America we're experiencing an economy that in no way can maintain the same price for various things. We've got all sorts of change, inflation, and we've just got to move with the times. We can't anticipate that we're just going to be able to do things the same old way year after year. Pluto completes Capricorn and goes into Aquarius in just a couple months in January. This is a rocket ship taking off. This is a slingshot that's lifting back, creating all of this tension in order to shoot us forward. Again, Chiron on the moon's north node is initiating healers, leaders, and teachers through a necessary uprising. This is going to call many healers into leadership roles. It's the time to stand up. It's the time to share. It's the time to fight back. We're going to get called up on our soapbox, many of us, through a punch in the gut experience. We don't even have a choice. What is the work that only you can do? Where are we seeing this world struggling and fundamentally missing these valuable things that we have and we hold? This is going to call us into Aries, taking action. Venus ruling this eclipse opposite to Saturn. What defined role or service, Venus and Virgo, can we offer back to the collective? The relationships that we are already in. And we can be receiving a tremendous amount of information through the reflections, potentially criticisms, but certainly the feedback that we're receiving from others. Mercury is exactly opposite to Chiron on the day of this eclipse. Do your talk therapy. Get your friends on the phone. Lay it all out. Scrape the underbelly of the underworld. Bring forth the materials that you're working with so that way we can begin to change the materials at hand. There's going to be this Scorpio underworld journey. It gets quite hot. It's like going into a furnace. That furnace melts down the raw materials that we're working with so we can shape something into... it's like hammering a sword into perfection. What is that pathway that we're initiating forward? We're going to get called there by our gut. I don't know why I'm being called in this direction. And that's where we're going to pull out this newly formed sword and begin carving our own path forward. I don't know why I'm being called this direction. I'm going to clear the space, gather the materials, and start building our school. People are going to start following that path, People are going to start finding out that your school exists. What are the roles that are needed? How can we divide up the work? How can we have each other's back? We're not going to be able to carve and build this thing out completely by ourselves either. So this eclipse brings up this total polarity and paradox between the need for support and the need to maintain our autonomy. Folks, you can pull this eclipse up in your birth chart. You want to look at 21 degrees Libra. See what house that eclipse is taking place in. And if you want more information from me, I'm going to tell you about how this eclipse is affecting your life personally. Join my forthcoming mini workshop. We're going to be meeting both in person as well as online the weekend of the 20th. So I look forward to seeing you there. And a quick little sign off, I'll also mention the moon's north node transiting the trans-Plutonian Eris. We'll go much more in depth with these asteroids in the mini workshop. Again, check out the video description below. Eris is responsible for starting the Trojan War. She's this goddess of discord. We got to shake things up. We got to do things differently. So we're experiencing these energies, these triggers, these reactions. We have to do it differently. All of this chaos is fertile. It is a creative opportunity to harness all this instability, all of this change, and bring it into a fundamentally new direction. This eclipse also is in the quincunx aspect to Uranus. So this level of unpredictability, instability, and a need to experiment, keep things rolling, keep things moving, throwing a bunch of darts at the target, and we want those darts to miss the target as much as we want the darts to hit the target. It's not failure, it's feedback. Have your notebook and write everything down. This experiment, A plus B equals C, had this result. This experiment, A plus D equals C, has this result. And we check it off and we take it down, experiment after experiment. Asteroid Persephone and Lilith are joined with this eclipse on the moon's south node. So here we have this highlighted opportunity to return to natural balance, natural harmony. This is about clearing out the projection that's happened through thousands of years of patriarchy, blaming the other, assuming roles, these long outdated traditions. This is an opportunity to go all the way back to what is a healthy, natural, supportive, mutually inspiring collaboration or relationship. With Lilith on the south node of the moon, Persephone joined this eclipse is once again bringing us into this underworld journey. And through our willingness to get down, get triggered, look at the codependency, make mistakes, bring it all up and out into therapy, this underworld journey can lead to a significant death and regeneration. Folks, again, this eclipse is like a moment in time. It's a snapshot that's setting the tone and the pace through the 6 months to come, through April of 2024. These are exciting weeks. This is an uprising. This is a reinvention. There are new opportunities for new people, new medicines, new healing modalities and therapies to be brought into our lives. We can also be discovering, initiating, and bringing these new inventions out into the world as well. So I look forward to seeing what we're going to all be discovering and sharing together. Again, if you want to continue the conversation with me, we're going to continue this sharing in my forthcoming Q&A taking place on the 22nd. I look forward to seeing what's going on in each of y'all's lives, to see how we can come together and discuss it all in a mutually supportive way, because each of us is biting off a chunk to digest, and we can really have each other's backs because we are all in this together. As always, it is a tremendous honor to be the message delivery mailman for you today, and I am wishing you the very, very best as we maneuver these evolutionary eclipse wormholes. And as always, for yourself and your loved ones, please do take care.